Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard. Thank you for watching today's Canada Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, over the last few weeks, we've been watching this very dry area begin to kind of expand and worsen over the Canadian prairies here, especially southern Saskatchewan, southern Alberta, parts of Manitoba as well. But we're finally seeing some light at the end of the tunnel here, looking to bring some precipitation into the region, at least in some areas, some local areas here, perhaps missing out on the heaviest stuff here, but it does look like we'll be active here as we head through not just these next few days, but then looking at a possibility of a pretty major storm system moving through parts of the area here towards the end of next week, which could potentially bring some more significant precipitation to the region here. As we look at the soil moisture here, difference from average again, kind of honing in on this very dry area here across parts of southern Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba, but dry conditions almost exclusively across the region. You have to head way off to the south across parts of the central United States before you get into any of these blue colors, suggesting that we've got a surplus of soil moisture. So dry across the Canadian prairie here, but with some light at the end of the tunnel that we'll dive into here in a moment. The week one precipitation forecast anomaly from the GFS ensemble model here highlights wetter than average conditions expected across the high plains here in southwestern Alberta, but then this corridor here, again, across parts of Alberta into the southern half of Saskatchewan and far southwestern Manitoba, looking to be wetter than average over the next 7 days. This takes us through June 14th, and then looking ahead even further, the week two anomaly forecast. This is June 21st through the 28th now, so about the last week of June, keeping things very active from the Canadian prairie into the Corn Belt of the United States, and that is good news. We'll take a look at some of the details here in just a moment. First, talking about the temperatures over the next 5 days. This will be June 14th through the 18th, looking at the temperature anomalies. Warmer to the west and cooler off to the south and east. The dividing line here kind of between these two air masses where it's very cool across the Corn Belt of the United States and then remaining warm here across parts of much of Alberta, northern Saskatchewan, and northern Manitoba over the next 5 days. We'll take a look at the jet stream then, because this is what is driving the change across the region. We've seen this big trough across the eastern United States. That's what's kept it cool across the central and eastern United States. And it is this little shortwave right here embedded within the flow that is bringing scattered showers and storms over the next 24 hours or so. And then as we play this out, here's what I want to show you here. The potential of a more significant trough moving into the region. We'll go ahead and start over. We'll play it out here. Here is this little shortwave right now that's bringing the chance for some, let me do a better job of circling it there, the chance of showers and storms here over the first part of the weekend. But as we head into the mid to late part of next week, we'll be watching this powerful trough beginning to move in from the Pacific Northwest. As we take this we're now into Monday, Tuesday, and now Wednesday, Thursday of late next week. Now we're starting to see this trough take on a look that suggests more active weather across the Canadian prairies and the northern plains of the United States, where it's been dry as well. Parts of North Dakota and Montana beginning to develop some drought in those areas as well. So not the entire Corn Belt that's been soaked over the last month or two. The northern portions of the Corn Belt still badly need some rain here. And so what happens when this big trough moves in? Well, we'll take a look at the 6-hour precipitation totals here as we head through the weekend. That shows us the scattered rain activity here over the next several days. This would be right now on Saturday evening, taking us into Sunday is when we kind of see things move off to the east. Now we're seeing things come to an end across the Canadian prairie. So some scattered showers and storms possible here Friday and Saturday before we quiet down, except for maybe along the front range here, seeing the possibility of some afternoon showers and storms continuing in the early part of next week. But as we head into mid to late next week, now we're starting to see the effects of that trough making landfall here and moving into the Canadian prairie region as we get into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, lingering perhaps into the weekend, starting to see some more significant shots of not just some heavy rainfall, but maybe some thunderstorm and perhaps some seasonally appropriate severe weather possible across the Canadian prairies as well. Again, this is mid to late next week, so scattered rain opportunities here the beginning of the weekend, Friday and Saturday, but looking towards Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for perhaps the chance for more significant precipitation accumulation. The day one severe weather outlook across the region here, not looking at much severe weather with this current system, maybe across the far southwestern portions of Alberta here, and then across far southern Saskatchewan, Regina, and south, perhaps seeing an isolated strong to severe storm as we head through the afternoon today on Friday. Looking at the potential for some funnel clouds up here across portions of northern Saskatchewan and far northeastern Alberta, as associated with an upper level low that's sitting over the area. I should show this first. We're looking at vorticity within the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and it's this little vorticity maximum, or vortmax, that we sometimes shorten that. It's a little, almost like a mini trough within the flow there, and you get a tight, compact, counterclockwise flow there. Lots of vorticity, lots of spin within the atmosphere, and as you tap into some of that afternoon and evening instability, you start to warm up the ground there. Some of that vorticity can be stretched, and you get little funnel clouds that develop out of the base of the cumulus clouds that develop in the afternoon and the evening. So absolutely, eyes to the sky if you live in this area here. Again, portions of northwestern Saskatchewan and northeastern Alberta. And if by chance you see something interesting in the sky, go ahead and send that my way here. Send it here over on Twitter or through email, because I would love to see some of that. So anyway, let's dive in though, and let's talk about the precipitation forecast. We're going to zoom in on Alberta here and go through the next week or so and just show you how things accumulate. And I'm going to pause it and go through time so you can just kind of time this out. We start off with Friday and Saturday looking at the opportunity for some scattered showers and storms. And that's where we get a look a little bit like this as we get through this. Let's start with 7 p.m. on Sunday. So the total precipitation through the weekend, getting us through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Seeing higher totals here along the Front Range. Elsewhere here, pretty scattered in nature, anywhere from a trace to maybe 10 millimeters or about a half of an inch or so. And then as we head through the early part of the week, it's here in Alberta where maybe we could continue to see some showers and storms here Monday and Tuesday, especially along the Front Range again, but maybe scattered in nature elsewhere. But then as we head into the middle to late part of the week, here we go, Wednesday, getting into Thursday, and now Friday. This is where we start to see the opportunity for more significant precipitation here across the southern half of Alberta, getting into Saskatchewan, which we'll talk about here in just a moment, but suggesting anywhere from 25 to 50 millimeters, so getting into that 1 to 2 inch threshold, which would be wonderful news across this area. And I've had some trust issues here. Seeing precipitation being forecast in the 7 to 14 day time range, only to have it kind of taken away as the date draws nearer. But it does look like, there's consistent agreement here that this bigger trough will arrive midweek, and that does make me feel better about promising some rain here across the region. Who exactly sees the highest totals here? Who's going to see 50 millimeters? Who's going to see a couple of inches? Where this corridor ends up is subject to change, shift north or south slightly here over the coming days, but we'll keep you up to date with that. Eric will have an update Monday. I'll have more updates for you Tuesday, and we can kind of hone in on who's going to be seeing the most rain, but kind of a broad area here being suggested that we'll see some significant rainfall here Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of next week. Comparing side by side now the European model and the GFS, the American long range model, and there are some disagreements here. This is why, again, I can't promise who's going to see the most rain. If we look at the European model, it's got a more continuous swath here where we see that 1 to 2 inch threshold, the 25 to 50 millimeter threshold. But if you look at the GFS model here, it's kind of wanting to stack it up along the high plains, the Front Range here, with the higher totals a little bit further to the west, with a gap in here where perhaps we were only picking up anywhere from a half an inch to 1 inch, which would be about 10 to 15 millimeters up to 25 millimeters of rain, and then resuming heavier precipitation off to the east in parts of Saskatchewan. So these are the details that we're going to have to kind of watch as the weekend goes on. Eric and I will be watching this. Eric will come in with new updates on Monday, and then I'll obviously have further updates and more specific updates to the Canadian prairies here on Tuesday, midday with our Tuesday Canada forecast. But just showing you the differences here, kind of the same general idea, but the GFS wants to take a bite out of that across this area, and that's just again going to be a problem of some of the details being sorted out here over the next few days. We'll talk about temperatures here just to finish out for Alberta. Your high temperatures on Friday, generally right around 20 degrees. Warmer off to the north for your Saturday high temperatures. Sunday, even warmer still off to the north where it's been very hot and dry over the last couple of weeks. High temperatures near 30 degrees. Sunday afternoon, mid-20s elsewhere. Similar look on Monday, and then we'll finish with your Tuesday high temperatures again. By the time we get to Tuesday, we're starting to bring that bigger storm system in from the west, and so we're seeing the impacts of maybe some clouds and some rainfall across the region, knocking high temperatures back down to the lower 20s across the region. Let's do the same thing now for Saskatchewan. There we go, the American accent kicking in there. I've been corrected, and if I'm still not getting it right, please do let me know. I want to make sure that I'm not sounding like a fool when I pronounce your location names here. But Saskatchewan and Manitoba, let's do the same thing. Let's start here Friday, taking it through Friday night into Saturday and Sunday. And this is where we see the opportunity for maybe some higher precipitation totals this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The European model wants to drop a little more than an inch or two here, about 25 to 50 millimeters of rain in this corridor across parts of southern Saskatchewan into far southwestern Manitoba, with more scattered amounts off to the north of around 10 to 20 millimeters, dry across the rest of the region here across northern and central Manitoba, and then parts of northeastern Saskatchewan, not seeing any precipitation here as we go through Sunday evening. Let's continue into the beginning of next week. Now, you remember Monday and Tuesday, and then much of Wednesday going to be, I should say Monday and Tuesday, going to be mostly dry across this region. This precipitation falling Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Dry Monday and Tuesday as it looks right now, but then Wednesday, that trough begins to move into the area. That area of low pressure bringing more significant chances for showers and thunderstorms. And here is that corridor then when we can expect to see, let me go ahead and draw that in a little bit better. This corridor here across parts of southern Saskatchewan and then southern, especially southwestern Manitoba, picking up anywhere from 25 to 50 millimeters of rain. Again, another 1 to 2 inches of precipitation. Let's do side by side now the European model, the ECMWF, and the GFS compared here. The ECMWF, the European model on the left, the American GFS model on the right. Not quite as different as we saw when we were looking over at Saskatchewan, but here we see the corridor here on the European model, and then as we look at the GFS model, kind of honing in on a corridor, something like this, really hammering the southern 2/3 of Saskatchewan, and then really the southern third of Manitoba. And then here on the right side, we see that kind of gap on the border there of Saskatchewan and Alberta, where the GFS kind of wants to put a little hole in the precipitation there. And then remember, same thing as I said over towards Alberta. My confidence is getting higher that we're going to see this swath of rainfall across the Canadian prairies here. But over the next 7 to 10 days, or the next 7 days at least, certainly opportunities for this to kind of shift north and south as it gets a little bit closer. And really, I should say over the next 5 or 7 days, because we're talking about Wednesday through Friday here. And so I check in, Monday morning when Eric puts his video out here, taking a broad look at it. I know he'll show some of the updated forecast numbers. And then certainly when I give the Canadian forecast here on Tuesday, midday next week, I'll be able to give a little bit more specific and high confidence forecast. But at any rate, some light at the end of the tunnel. Unfortunately, I'm sure some people here maybe going to be missing out, but it looks like this is the first opportunity here for some widespread significant rain that I've actually had some trust and some confidence here in quite some time. So let's finish with the high temperatures here over the next 5 days. Your Friday high temperatures quite warm off to the south. Southern Manitoba and southern Saskatchewan pushing 30 degrees Friday afternoon. Cooler with some rain and some cloud cover across this region here. High temperatures only going to be in 10 to 15 degrees Celsius Saturday afternoon. Sunday warming up slightly again, and then Monday back towards the lower 20s. Tuesday high temperatures, and then we will finish with, this was Wednesday right here. We're a bit cooler here. I went to green, where we see the rain and the cloud cover here, keeping things down to around 20 degrees. Warmer elsewhere, the mid to upper 20s. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Monday morning ag forecast video, and I'll have your next Canada regional update midday on Tuesday. Have a great Friday and have a great weekend.